Part 1.
You are going to hear a conversation. Before you listen, please look at
Questions 1 to 6.
Good afternoon. Weston Car Club. Could I help you?
Oh, afternoon. I was wondering if you could give me some information about your services.
Sure. What would you like to know?
What about racing training? I heard you had a team.
No, not really. We do have a racing track, but haven't formed a team. Perhaps you're thinking about Waverton Car Club.
Oh, right. I know it. I've watched an auto rally there.
Really? Yes, they've already got a professional team. But we also have our peculiarity. Our track is designed for the starter or fans on senior level instead of the professional ones. Thus, it is very popular with members.
Sounds good.
We have driving training classes too. All the coaches here are very experienced.
Is there any special place for relax?
Of course. At the moment, we've got a lounge bar right behind the training centre. Besides, there are vending machines everywhere, as well as a fully licensed restaurant by the end of the year.
I see. Do you have car renting service? I may need a car these days.
Yes, we have a large number of cars in supply. You can choose whatever you want here.
Would you please introduce the renting facilities in detail?
Sure. We now have 2 styles of car for rent, Grade C and Grade D.
What is the difference?
Grade C includes air conditioning, a whole set of stereo, high-class engine, what's more with low mileage.
Spectacular. Is it very expensive?
Well, you pay £300 as a deposit, then it's £40 per day. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's just gone up by £15. Sorry about that. It's now £55 for the rent each day.
I got it. And what's the next type?
Well, Grade D doesn't have air conditioners and is a little bit older than Grade C, but the rent would be far less.
So, how much exactly? Is the deposit the same as for Grade C?
Actually, it's slightly less than the £300. It's £250, but the rent for each day is only £35. Is it a good price for you?
Well, it's still far from what I expected. I will pay a visit to nearby cities for at least 1 week. £35 per day is still beyond my limit. Don't you have any discount?
Then maybe you can try the VIP card.
Would you please introduce it to me?
Of course. You just need to pay a £30 fee for a VIP card. Then you can enjoy an 80% discount for Grade C and 75% for Grade D.
Before you listen to the rest of the conversation, you have 30 seconds to read questions 7 to 10.
Besides, we also offer road map, sun sheet and flashlight to the VIP.
Oh, that should be all right. By the way, can I pay for it by credit card?
Sure, you can pay by cash or credit card, but no cheques are permitted.
OK, then I would come in my spare time. What should I do if I want to join?
Well, we book you in for an assessment with an instructor who will show you how to use all the equipment. If you want to organise a trial session and look around the centre, you'll need to speak to Anna Manuja.
Could you spell that, please?
Yes, Anna, M-A-N-U-J-A. I'll give you her direct line number. It's 504889615.
Thanks.
Thank you for calling Weston Car Club.
That is the end of Part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2. Part 2.
And you are going to hear a lecture. Before you listen, please look at questions 11 to 20. Now listen to the lecture and answer questions 11 to 20.
Welcome to Hawaii Tour Agency. Let me tell you something about a special package we have going on this week. I know everyone wants to get away from the stress of work and life, so I think you should all consider a week-long vacation to the paradise of Hawaii. First of all, let me tell you all a little about Hawaii. The Hawaiian Islands are of volcanic origin and are edged with coral reefs. Because of its volcanic origins, people often go especially to see the volcanoes. Hawaii is the largest and geologically the youngest island of the group. Oahu is the most populous and economically important. The capital of Honolulu is located on the island of Oahu, the only US state in the tropics. Hawaii is sometimes called the paradise of the Pacific because of its spectacular beauty, abundant sunshine, expanses of lush green plants and beautiful coloured flowers, palm trees, coral beaches with rolling white surf, and cloud-covered volcanic peaks rising to majestic heights. Some of the world's largest active and inactive volcanoes are found on Hawaii and Maui. Eruptions of the active volcanoes have provided spectacular displays, but their lava flows have occasionally caused great property damage. The lava can spill down the mountains into the settlements where people live. The most famous of these is right by Honolulu. It is called Diamond Head because from far away, the top of the volcano looks like a diamond. Vegetation is generally luxuriant throughout the islands, with giant fern forests and lush vegetation. Although many species of birds and domestic animals have been introduced on the islands, there are few wild animals other than boars and goats, and there are no snakes. The coastal waters abound with fish.
Before you listen to the rest of the conversation, you have 30 seconds to read questions.
More ethnic and cultural groups are represented in Hawaii than in any other state. Chinese labourers who came to work in the sugar industry were the first of the large groups of immigrants to arrive, starting in 1852, and Filipinos and Koreans were the last after 1900. Other immigrant groups, including Portuguese, Germans, Japanese, and Puerto Ricans, came in the latter part of the 19th century. Intermarriage with other races has brought a further decrease in the number of pure-blooded Hawaiians, who comprise a very small percentage of the population. Now, this all sounds very interesting, right? For only $600 per person, we are offering a tour package to Hawaii. This includes your round-trip airfare and fully guided tours. The duration of the trip is 5 days, including hotel for 5 nights and tour buses that will take you all around. We will go to the famous beaches, the volcanoes and the forests. Sign up today to save your space as seats are running out quickly.
The end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3. Part 3.
You will hear two students talking about a class project. First, you will have some time to look at questions 21 to 23. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 23.
Hi, Janet.
Harry, what's up?
You know that research project we have to do for Professor Farley's class? Have you started it yet?
Started it? I'm almost done.
Really? I'm having trouble. You think you could help me?
You're going to need a lot of help. It's due next Thursday.
I know.
And it counts for 40% of our final semester grade.
I know, so I could really use your help. So what topic did you choose?
I did my research about people's TV watching habits.
You mean which programs they watch?
Yeah, and how often they watch. It was really interesting.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 24 to 30. Now listen carefully and answer questions 24 to 30.
So how'd you get started?
Well, after I decided my topic, I went to the library and did some research. I read about other studies people had done about TV watching.
How did that help you?
Oh, it was really important. It gave me lots of ideas about what questions to ask. So after I did the library research, I chose my research method.
What did you choose?
Well, I could do either interviews or just send around a paper questionnaire. I decided to use the questionnaire because I could get information from a lot more people that way.
And then what?
I made up the questions for the questionnaire.
And who did you give it to?
Well, that's what I had to do next. Choose my subjects. You have to think about if you want data from people of a certain age or certain professions and things like that. I decided to ask people like myself, university students.
So then you just went around and asked people the questions?
Well, first I had to submit my research design to Professor Farley. He had to make sure it was okay before I went ahead with the research.
Did he make you change anything?
No, he pretty much liked it the way it was. So then I had to send out the questionnaire. I just put it in all the students' mailboxes. A lot of them responded. I got a lot of results. Pages and pages.
Well, what did you do with all that information?
Well, I did what Professor Farley told us to do. I made charts and graphs. That helped me figure out what all the data meant.
Charts and graphs, huh? I'll have to look at my class notes.
Yes, you'd better. The professor outlined the whole process for us.
So then you'll just hand in those charts and graphs on Thursday?
Well, I'll have to write a report too, of course. The professor wants to see our interpretation of the results. That's the whole point, don't you see?
Yeah, I guess. If I get started now, do you think I'll finish on time?
Maybe, if you don't have anything else to do this week.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
Part 4.
You'll hear a professor giving a lecture on the American crow. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40 Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Today I'll talk about the American crow, also known as the common crow. This bird has a bad reputation, and many people consider it to be a pest. But the American crow and many of its cousins in the corvid family are actually among the most intelligent of all the birds. There are about 40 species in the crow family, and they can be found in most parts of the world. You'll find crows in North America, although, interestingly enough, not in South America. While crows live in cold areas of the far north, close to the Arctic region, there are none in Antarctica. They also like warm regions. There are several species of crows, for example, in Hawaii. And of course, you'll find them in other parts of the world, Europe, Asia, and so on. The American crow is one of the 15 species of crows found in North America, and is also one of the most common. It's not a small bird, measuring 39 to 49 centimetres in length. Unlike some of its cousins, the magpie, for example, which is black and white, or the blue jay, which is blue with white and black markings, the American crow is completely black, including the beak and feet. Because of their intensely dark colour, some people dislike crows, or better said, fear them. Another reason people dislike crows is because they associate these birds with garbage. Crows love garbage and are often seen hanging around dumpsters behind restaurants and grocery stores. In addition to garbage left behind by humans, crows eat seeds, grains, eggs, fish, and carrion. They'll eat just about anything. One of their absolute favourite foods is corn. Crows build large nests of sticks, usually in trees or sometimes in bushes. For safety reasons, they almost never nest on the ground. Mostly they nest alone, but in some places they've been seen nesting in colonies. The female lays from 3 to 6 eggs at a time. The eggs hatch in about 18 days. The babies stay in the nest for around a month. Generally, 35 days after hatching, they have their feathers and are ready to fly. Next, we'll talk about some studies which have demonstrated the extreme intelligence of these animals.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.